There's a psychologist by the name of Thomas Gilovich, and he did a study not too long ago where he looked at how does the satisfaction of a person get impacted depending on if you spend money on a physical good, like a phone, or if you invest in an experience. And what he found is that over time, if you buy a physical good, your satisfaction will start to decrease. But over time, if you invest in an experience, your satisfaction will go up. So how do we create an organization where over time it feels like the satisfaction goes up and not like it's a transaction, like we just purchased a phone? That's what the leading organizations around the world have figured out how to do. So I analyzed 252 companies around the world. I interviewed 150 senior level executives, and then I hired a team of 5 researchers and 2 data scientists to collect data on these 252 organizations around the world to identify how do we build this kind of a company. Now, the good news is that for every single employee at every company around the world, employee experience is just a combination of 3 things: technology, physical space, and culture. That's it, thank you. Just those 3 things: technology, physical space, and culture. Every single employee experience for every employee at every company around the world is a combination of those 3 things. But what about the work? That's one of the things that everybody always asks. You have this model of technology, culture, and physical space, but where's the work?
I learned something absolutely insane today. 96% of the people who watch videos on this channel are not subscribed to it. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. It'll take you just 1 second and it helps the channel quite a bit. You'll also get access to new videos when they are released. Hit that subscribe button, and now let's get back to the content.
We have all at some point in our lives worked for an organization where we didn't like our job. And we quit, and we went to go work for another organization. And that other organization is in the same industry, it's the same company size, it's in the same geographic location, and we're doing the same type of work. But now, all of a sudden, we love our job. What changed? It's not the work that you're doing, it's the environment in which the work is getting done. It's the culture, it's the technology, it's the physical space. Organizations that can design for those 3 things and build for those 3 things are going to get the organizations where people actually want, not need, to show up to work. The big problem I've seen with employee engagement is that an engaged workforce is an outcome. It's not a cause of something. Employee experience is the cause, and engaged workforce is the outcome. And then you get business results. So we've been very stuck trying to focus on measuring the outcome and manipulating the outcome without trying to understand what the cause actually is. And the cause is culture, technology, and physical space. So let's start off with technology. Technology is the central nervous system of your organization. It's what empowers and enables everything around the future of work. Real-time feedback, communication, collaboration. All of these things are enabled by technology. Last year, I went to go speak in Zurich to a large financial institution. And after I gave my keynote to the executive team, I met one-on-one with employees. And all the employees there told me the same thing. We love the corporate culture. We love our office. We're all thinking about leaving. And I thought, that doesn't make any sense. Why would you want to leave this kind of a company if you love the people that you work with and if you love your physical space? It was a technology issue. Because employees didn't have the right access to tools and technologies at work, they became frustrated with their jobs. They couldn't do workplace flexibility programs. They couldn't invest in real-time feedback and communication and collaboration. The tools that they were using were literally designed and built in the 70s and the 80s. So what that tells us is that technology, we always assume, is a separate thing that lives over here. But technology, when we don't put emphasis on it, becomes a human problem. When we don't invest in technology, it becomes a human problem. And when we don't have the right tools to do our jobs at work, the human aspects around technology start to break down. Trust, communication, collaboration, employee engagement, all of these things start to suffer when we don't have the tools that we need to get our jobs done at work. One of the things that I find very fascinating is that we talk about technology and its world-changing impacts, right? We talk about autonomous vehicles, we talk about AI and automation, we talk about robots, augmented and virtual reality, the Internet of Things, all these crazy technologies. Meanwhile, at work, we're still trying to figure out how to connect our printer to the Wi-Fi network. Meanwhile, organizations around the world are still using Excel spreadsheets to keep track of all of their people data. So how does that make sense? How are we talking about all these crazy things in the technology world? Meanwhile, the tools that we're using to get our jobs done are still way down here. I think if we truly want to build this amazing world that's being powered by technology, we have to start with the people inside of our organizations who are building the very things that we're going to use. So there's a big gap between where we think the world is going and where it should be going versus the reality of the tools and technologies that we're actually using at work today. So we have to start to close that gap. Now, technology comprises 30% of an employee's overall experience. So your total overall employee experience about how you feel working for your organization, almost a third of it is shaped by the tools and the technologies that you use to get your job done. The second environment is physical space. Now, I know you guys have recently invested in a beautiful new headquarters that's got 6,000 sensors in there, and you've been putting a huge focus on the 4 C's. What was it? Communication, collaboration, chill out. What was the fourth one? Concentration. There we go. So I know you have invested, good job, by the way. So I know you have invested heavily in building this new, amazing physical workspace, which I love to see. Now, the reason why physical space is so important is because it acts as a symbol of your company. This is a new way for us to think about a physical structure because usually we always assume that the physical structure is just a place that we work. It's just a building. You just need an office. You just need space. But what we're starting to see now and what research shows us is that the physical space is a symbol of your company. Think about Batman. Think about Wonder Woman, Superman, all these superheroes. They all have symbols that represent who they are, what they stand for. Your symbol is your physical space. It helps employees feel a sense of belonging. It helps connect them with the mission of the organization, and it helps them connect to the purpose that the organization is pursuing. So the physical space absolutely acts as a symbol for your organization. It's not just about physical space. Imagine for a minute you went into somebody's house, and that house was only comprised of one room, a kitchen. And everything that you do has to be done in that kitchen. You sleep in the kitchen, you eat in the kitchen, you entertain guests in the kitchen, you shower in the kitchen, everything you do is in this kitchen. You'd probably say, wow, that's a pretty bad house. So then why is it that we force employees every day to work in the same environment? We wouldn't want to live in a place like that. Why should we want to work in a place like that? And this is especially crucial when you think about that you spend more time on planet Earth working than doing anything else. You spend more time working than you do with your spouse. You spend more time working than you do sleeping, than spending time with your kids. You spend more time at work than doing anything else. Work is life, and life is work. Right? These two are becoming the same thing. Which is why I always find it fascinating when somebody says, oh, things are going good in my personal life, but at work, things are not going good. If things aren't going well at work, things are also not going well in your personal life because the two are becoming one. And because these two are becoming one, we have to invest in creating a place where people actually want to show up. Because it's not just about work, it's about their life. We've never seen this before, but today, employees around the world are not moving just for a job. Decades ago, you used to move where the money was, where the job was, where you knew you could get work. But today, that's not the case anymore. Today, people are moving not just for the job, but for quality of life. They are moving to places around the world where they know it's not just going to be about the work, it's going to be about their life. So employee experience is a huge, huge investment for companies around the world, and it's one of the reasons why physical space is so crucial. The physical environment comprises also 30% of an employee's overall experience. Now, what we're starting to see organizations around the world do, and you guys have probably had this debate internally before you created your new office, was, do we want an open floor plan or do we want a closed floor plan? Which one is the best option for us? But the reality is that what most organizations are doing is they're creating a hybrid approach. You have multiple floor plans and multiple environments for which employees can work in. There was a study done by an organization called Leesman, and they identified 21 different ways in which an employee can work during the course of the day. 21. This is why organizations around the world are investing in maybe some open spaces, maybe some modern cubicle-like areas, maybe conference rooms, quiet areas, library-type areas, collaboration spaces, cafe-like spaces. This is what the leading organizations around the world are doing. And there's been a lot of talk that the corporate office is going to go away, that it's going to die. And that's not true. In fact, we're seeing more investment than ever being put into commercial real estate. And that's because organizations are realizing that the physical space is re-emerging as an employee experience center. The physical space is becoming a place that creates a sense of wonder and curiosity and awe and inspiration for the people who work there. The physical space isn't dying, it's just changing. So the physical space, again, is 30% of an employee's overall experience. The next one is corporate culture. Physical space is an environment that you can see and touch and taste and breathe in. Corporate culture is the environment you feel. It's not tangible per se. This is also the hardest environment for most organizations to figure out because of that very reason, because it is something that you feel. I like to think of corporate culture as the side effects of working for your company. We've all seen this, right? We're all watching a show on TV, and in the middle of a show, we see one of those commercials for a prescription drug. And the side effects for the prescription drug include weight gain, skin discoloration, hair loss, nausea, difficulty breathing, bleeding from the eyes, and in some cases, death. And we all look at those commercials and we think, who the hell is going to take this kind of a drug? But interestingly enough, most people around the world work for organizations that have the exact same side effects, don't they? Most people in the world work for organizations where from prolonged exposure, you experience weight gain and hair loss, bleeding from the eyes. We've all been to those meetings. And in some cases, death. So why is it that we're not willing to take the pill, yet for some reason we're willing to subject ourselves to working for these types of organizations day in and day out, every day for years? It doesn't make any sense. When I meet with executives one-on-one, I always ask them the same question. If I were to bottle up what it was like to work at your company and put it into a pill, and I gave you that pill right now to swallow it, would you swallow it? And almost every executive that I speak with always tells me no. So how then can we expect employees to swallow the corporate pill? How can we expect our employees to want to be a part of that organization if we as executives, as leaders, as managers, do not want to do the same? So you have to ask yourself, are you willing to swallow the corporate culture pill? The other question I always like to ask is your organization worth fighting for? We've all been in relationships before where it doesn't work out. Some relationships are worth fighting for, and some are not. When you break up with a spouse or a significant other, sometimes you acknowledge and accept that it's time to move on, and other times you say, I'm not ready to give up. I'm going to keep trying. You're worth fighting for. Is your organization worth fighting for? A lot of organizations believe that their job is to create something like Pinocchio's Island, where everything is this wonderful, magical place to show up. Free food, we'll take care of you, work when you want, it's fine, la, la, la. But that's not what we're talking about here, right? Employees also have to have a lot of accountability and responsibility to speak up at work and to decide if their organization is worth fighting for. One of the things that personally drives me nuts is when I see employees complain about the organization they work for, yet they do nothing about it. They don't fight for that relationship. They don't speak up at work. They just complain. You have to decide if your organization is worth fighting for. And if it is, then you have to fight like hell. If it's not, then you need to end the relationship and move on. And this is something that I think we're going to start to see more of as we see this transparency and trust emerge inside of our companies. Now, I'll be honest, when I graduated college, I was not able to find an organization that I was willing to fight for. I couldn't find one. When I graduated college, I went to go work for a technology company in Los Angeles. And when I interviewed for this company, they told me that I was going to be doing all these wonderful and amazing things. Traveling around the country, meeting with executives, meeting with entrepreneurs. It was going to be amazing. So much so that I was willing to forego my hour-and-a-half commute to work and back from work every day. 3 hours a day driving. I said, that's fine, because this is going to be a great place to work. That was the story I was told. And a couple of months into my job, I'm doing data entry and cold calling, PowerPoint presentations. And one day, the CEO comes out of his office and he says, Jacob, come over here real quick. I got a big project for you. And I ran over to him and I said, yes, what is it? And he puts his hand into his wallet. He hands me $10. And he says, I'm late for a meeting. I need you to go run down to Starbucks and get me a cup of coffee. And get yourself a latte as well. Oh, thank you. So my initial reaction, are you stupid? I'm not going to get you a cup of coffee, you idiot. I worked so hard in school to go get you a cup of coffee. Go get your own stupid cup of coffee, is what I said on the inside. On the outside, I said, sure, I would love to go get you that cup of coffee. It would be my honor to get you that cup of coffee. Don't choke on it. And that was one of the last corporate jobs I've ever had working for anybody else because I wasn't able to find an organization that was worth fighting for. Now, compare that to a story that's always told about President Kennedy and how he went to go visit the NASA Space Center. And during a tour of the NASA Space Center, he sees a man walking down the hall with a broom and a bucket. And he stops the tour and he goes up to that man and he says, hi, I'm President Kennedy. What do you do here? And he says, I helped put a man on the moon. He didn't say, I restock paper towels. He didn't say, I sweep the floors. He said, I helped put a man on the moon. It's a very different feeling. It's a very different type of organization. That is an organization worth fighting for. Corporate culture comprises 40% of your overall employee experience. It's the biggest environment that organizations can shape. So these are the three environments that shape all employee experiences for every company around the world: culture, technology, and physical space. These three things make up what I like to think of as the employee experience equation. Now, if you're hearing me talk about this and saying, well, yeah, that's obvious, that's true, that's the point. These three things have been sitting under our noses inside of our organizations for 100 years. And we have done very little to invest in them, and we have done very little to combine the three. Culture impacts technology. Technology impacts physical space impacts culture. These three things tie together. So these three things are obvious, but yet we have done very little to invest in them, and more so, we have done very little to realize that the three are related. That all three shape every employee experience for every company around the world. The fascinating thing, though, is it's not just investing in these things, it's what these three things mean by you investing in them. Let me give you an example. Let's say that I get up and I go to the refrigerator and I make myself a sandwich. And I also make one for you without you having to ask for it. And I come back and I bring you that sandwich. What does that mean? Now, the outcome of that is you're no longer hungry. But the fact that I did that for you means what? It means I care. It means I understand you. It means I am observing. So when we invest in culture and technology and physical space, we're not just telling employees, we want you to have great tools. We want you to want to work here. We want you to have an amazing physical space. What it means is that your organization cares about your people. It means it cares about innovation. It means it wants to help connect what the employees do to the feeling and the sense of purpose that they have. It means you want to create a safe place. It means you want to build trust, collaboration. That's what it means. So when you invest in employee experience, it's not just the act of doing it. It's not just the outcome that you have to pay attention to. It's what this means and what it symbolizes for you. It's what it represents, what it means that Tieto is. It's more than just things. It's more than just environments.